My stepdaughter said, "You can't replace Dad, no matter how much you pay." She said it like she was doing me a favor, like she was setting me free. But it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like a noose finally tightening. I didn't argue. Didn't ask her what her real dad had paid for lately. Didn't mention the 5 times he promised to come and didn't. Didn't ask where he was when she cried herself into panic attacks at 13, when she wanted to die because the girls at school called her fat and her father called her dramatic. Instead, I just stopped trying to replace anything. Not the rent. Not the weekly therapy. Not the $370 uniforms for her upscale private school. She found out the truth the way most entitled people do, when comfort goes missing. When the school enrollment confirmation bounced back with the red ink of digital rejection, payment failed. Her world cracked at the seams then. Not because she'd lost a father, but because she'd lost the one she never wanted to acknowledge was keeping her world intact. My name is Tom. I'm 47. I married Rachel 6 years ago. She was 39 then. Elegant, tired, stretched too thin from her divorce but still charming in that slow burn kind of way. We met in line at a hardware store. I bought her coffee afterward. She told me she liked that I didn't talk too much. Katie was 12 at the time. Moody, sharp-eyed, already measuring me against a ghost she refused to criticize. I never tried to be her dad. That wasn't the arrangement. I told myself that. I told myself it every time she rolled her eyes when I spoke. Every time she introduced me as Rachel's husband to her friends. Every time I picked her up from practice and she wordlessly climbed in without a glance. I wasn't her father. I was the man who filled the gaps her father left behind. The gaps were everywhere. School trips, birthday gifts, winter coats, counseling. He never sent a cent. Not once. Not even a text saying he wished he could. But his picture still sat on her nightstand. A younger version of him with his arm around her shoulder. Both smiling like betrayal was still a decade away. She guarded that frame like it was sacred. Cleaned the glass with her sleeve every Saturday. I saw her do it once through a crack in the door. Rachel told me not to worry. "She's young," she said. "She'll come around." But Katie didn't come around. She calcified. She learned sarcasm like a second language. Every interaction with me became a test I didn't know I was taking. And I failed them all. "You don't get it. You wouldn't understand. You're not my real dad." Once, when I reminded her that tuition was due and asked if she'd packed everything she needed, she said, "You could buy the whole school and still not be my father." I stood there in the hallway holding her lunchbox like a fool. She walked out the door and slammed it so hard it shook the frame. Rachel said I was being sensitive. That she was just a teenager. I asked if she would have said the same if Katie had said it to her. Rachel didn't answer. That silence stayed with me. It followed me to work. It sat beside me at dinner. It whispered in the moments I should have been relaxing, on the couch in the garage driving alone. The silence said, "You're not family. You're payroll." So I kept paying. Not because I believed it would win her over, but because I thought it was the right thing to do. Because I'd been raised by a man who disappeared, too. And I swore I'd never be him. But you can only buy so many uniforms, so many therapy sessions, so many damn organic lunches before you start to feel like you're sponsoring your own erasure. I remember the day I stopped. I came home early. Rain on the windshield. A headache pulsing behind my eyes. The kind of day where all you want is warmth, maybe a hello. I opened the door and heard Katie on the phone. She was laughing. "He thinks money makes him important," she said. "But he's just plan B. A substitute. You know how schools have emergency binders in case the real teacher doesn't show? That's what he is. An emergency binder." She paused, then said, "At least I get stuff out of it. I mean, why not, right?" I didn't say anything. I didn't let the door close. I just backed out slowly and sat in my truck until the rain stopped. That night, she handed me a receipt. "New uniform," she said, without looking up from her phone. They changed the skirt length. I looked at the paper. $370. I filed it away in the drawer where I kept the rest of the invoices. Orthodontist bills, ballet lessons, SAT prep. A graveyard of financial sacrifice. Then I pulled up my laptop and opened the spreadsheet I'd been maintaining. Quietly, obsessively. I'd been tracking everything. Every dollar. Every month. Rent. $950. Therapist, $180. Uniform, $370. Gym fees. Lunch plans. Gas money. I closed the spreadsheet, opened my bank portal, and canceled every single auto payment. I emailed the school, told them I wouldn't be continuing as her financial sponsor, asked them to forward any future invoices to her legal guardian. When I told Rachel, she looked at me like I had slapped her. "You're punishing her," she said. "No," I replied. "I'm just honoring her decision." "What decision?" she snapped. I looked her in the eye. She said I'm not her father, that I'm not important, that I'm plan B. So I'm done trying to replace someone who abandoned her. I won't do it anymore. Rachel went quiet. She didn't protest the way I thought she would. She didn't defend Katie. She didn't say, "You're still part of this family." She just stood there, arms crossed, as if I just told her the weather report. And that's when I understood something deeper than anything I'd admitted before. It wasn't just Katie. Rachel had never truly seen me as a father either. I was a convenience, a support beam, a man who paid the difference so she could live without facing the wreckage of her first marriage. She'd let her daughter speak to me like that because, deep down, she agreed. Maybe not out loud, maybe not consciously, but in her silence, in her apathy, in the way she always said, "Don't take it personally," she was saying the same thing. "You're not her father." And maybe, if I'm being honest, I never was. I was just the man who kept the lights on while she mourned a fantasy. But here's the part no one wants to talk about. Even emergency binders get tired of collecting dust. There's a moment when the weight doesn't crush you. It clarifies you. That moment came for me not in a storm, not in a shouting match, not in the tearful climax movies like to pretend is real. Came on a Tuesday. Cloudless sky. The smell of laundry detergent in the air. The kind of day when nothing is wrong except everything is. Katie was sitting at the kitchen island, texting with that robotic confidence teenagers wear like armor. Rachel was slicing vegetables, humming some song from a decade I didn't belong to. The house looked peaceful. But under it all, something had shifted. Me. I had already canceled everything. The payments. The renewals. The auto transfers that made their lives seamless. Now I was watching the countdown. The silent unraveling of a world I was no longer financing. I said nothing when Katie asked, "Did my therapist reschedule again?" I said nothing when Rachel muttered, "School's asking about tuition. I'll handle it later." No one looked at me. Why would they? The furniture doesn't speak. But I noticed things. Small things. Katie started taking longer to get dressed in the morning. Her school uniform hadn't arrived. She was recycling last year's skirt, safety pinning the waistband, hoping no one noticed. The therapist's office called. Left a message on the machine. "We'll need a new payment method to continue services." Rachel deleted it before Katie heard. She thought I didn't see, but I did. I always saw more than I let on. Then one night, Katie burst in, red-faced, voice brittle. She'd gotten the school's email. "Why did they say payment was declined?" she snapped. I looked up from the sink, where I was scrubbing the same pan I'd already washed twice. "Because it was." She blinked. "Did you forget or something?" "No." "So you're just not paying?" Her voice cracked, just enough to betray the panic under the snarl. I dried my hands slowly, turned to face her. "You said I'm not your father, that I'm trying to replace someone who can't be replaced." I listened. "I believed you." Her lips curled. "This is so petty." Rachel walked in then, tension radiating off her in waves. "What's going on?" "She stopped being enrolled because of him," Katie said, pointing at me like I was a broken appliance. Rachel turned to me. "Tom, what the hell?" "I told you," I said calmly. "I'm done pretending I have a role here. If I'm not part of the family, I don't pay the family's bills." "You're punishing her." "No," I said again. "I'm done sponsoring disrespect." Katie stormed out, muttering something about ruining her future. Rachel followed, and for a moment, I was alone again. I stood there in the kitchen, surrounded by dishes I'd bought, in a home I'd kept afloat, in a life I was never truly invited into. I had spent years trying to prove I belonged. Turns out I was the only one making the effort. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Katie barely spoke. Rachel stopped humming. Every interaction was surface level, cold smiles, short answers, meals eaten quickly and away from the table. Then the fallout began. First came the school. "Your daughter is not enrolled due to non-payment," the email said. "Please resolve immediately or risk forfeiting her spot." I forwarded it to Rachel and said nothing. Then the therapist sent a cancellation notice. Rachel opened it, sighed, and closed her laptop like it was a power button. That same night, Katie slipped a new receipt onto the kitchen table. Her handwriting was messier than usual. "Just the uniform," she wrote. "No please. No thank you. Just expectation." I put it in the trash. When she came down the next morning and saw it gone, she didn't speak. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes didn't meet mine. She started texting more, whispering on the phone, plotting. I watched it all without comment. A week later, her grandmother, Rachel's mother, called. "I don't mean to interfere," she said sweetly, "but Katie mentioned something about trouble with school. I'd be happy to help. Just let me know what's going on." I almost laughed. Katie was trying to outsource me. I thanked her, declined, and hung up. Then came the texts. "Why are you doing this? You're the adult. Act like it." "I need school, Tom. This is serious." I didn't reply. She sent another. "You're the reason everything's falling apart." Still no reply. I forwarded her the school's official response. Registration denied. No confirmed sponsor. Rachel cornered me that night. "She's a child," she said. "She doesn't understand what she's saying." "She's nearly 18, I said. "Old enough to sentence me to irrelevance." "You're tearing this family apart." "No," I said quietly. "I just stopped being the glue." Silence again. The next week was a war of whispers. Katie tried rallying her father, the myth, the man of vanishing acts. Left voicemails, sent emails, even mailed a handwritten letter, I think. He never responded. And when she realized that door was still locked, she circled back to me. This time softer, more calculated. She sat across from me one evening, trying to smile. "I looked into public school options," she said, "but they don't offer the same courses. If you could just help with tuition, nothing else, just that. Maybe we can figure something out." I sipped my coffee and said nothing. "I'm not asking you to be dad," she added. "You never were," I said. "You were asking me to be the checkbook, just with feelings." Her face flushed. "That's not fair." "No," I agreed. "It's not." She stood up and walked away. No raised voice, no slammed door, just the sound of her retreating again. A few days later, I found out she was sleeping on a friend's couch. Public school enrollment confirmed. Working part-time at a coffee shop. Her Instagram changed. The brunch photos and concert clips were gone. Now it was moody quotes and black and white selfies. Posts like, "Just because I'm not blood doesn't mean I'm not worth it. Some people only love when they're needed." Resilience means learning to walk without crutches. Performative. But something had cracked. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I just watched. And in that silence, I began to feel something new. Not guilt. Not anger. Clarity. They had all made their statements. "Katie, you're not my dad." "Rachel, you take things too personally." "And me?" I had finally responded. "Then stop expecting me to act like family if you won't treat me like it." When the money stopped, so did her indifference. That was the first sign. Not the tears. Not the apologies. Just the quiet collapse of entitlement. Like a spoiled houseplant that realized the sun was no longer interested. First, she tried silence. Katie had mastered it over the years. With me, at least. But silence only works when you hold the power. When the bills are paid. When the rides keep coming. When the lights stay on. Without money behind it, Her silence was just silence. She texted 3 days after the school rejection. Just one word. Seriously. I didn't answer. The next day came a new barrage. You're ruining my life. I can't do public school. I've been working toward this for years. I forwarded the school's denial letter again. Then the real venom arrived. You're a grown man throwing a tantrum because a teenager hurt your feelings. That's pathetic. I didn't flinch. I just marked the thread unread. Then she called. 7 times. I let them all ring. No voicemails. Just missed calls. A digital echo of panic. Rachel started leaving notes around the house. Passive. Desperate. Can we talk? She's just scared. You're making your point. Maybe it's time to stop. But I wasn't making a point anymore. I was making peace. Peace with the fact that the role I'd played, provider, protector, invisible guardian, had never been reciprocated. That every dollar I spent didn't earn respect, it rented tolerance. Katie learned that money meant she could speak to me however she liked. That the fridge stayed full no matter what she said. That the therapist stayed available. The lights stayed on, the future stayed open, regardless of her contempt. And Rachel? She let it happen. Smoothed it over. Translated cruelty into teenage moods. I had stopped being angry. That part burned out the night I heard Katie call me Plan B through the living room wall. What I felt now was colder, heavier, resolution. Then came the day the spiral went public. Katie's Instagram post hit at 4:37 p.m. A black square, captioned, "Abandoned isn't just when someone leaves. It's when they stay and still choose not to care." A flood of comments followed. "DM me, girl, broken heart. You deserve better. Stepdads are the worst, lol." Rachel showed it to me with trembling hands. "This is how she's coping," she said. I looked at the screen, the comments, the curated heartbreak, the performance. And then I asked, "Is this what you're proud of raising?" She flinched. "She's hurt. She's manipulative. She's a child, Tom." "No," I said flatly. "She's a young adult who's learning the most important lesson of her life. When you bite the hand that feeds you, the hand stops feeding." Rachel didn't reply. The next week, Katie sent a new message. "I'm sorry if I said things that hurt you, but this is bigger than us. It's my education. No apology, no ownership, just another negotiation." She offered a compromise. I could resume tuition payments and she'd handle the rest, rent, therapy, the smaller things. She even said, "You can stay out of it emotionally. Just be the sponsor. No expectations." The sponsor, like I was a corporate donor. I wrote back one sentence. "This isn't a deal. You said I'm not family, so act like it." No reply. I imagined her reading that, fingers clenched, eyes watering with a mixture of rage and realization. And I realized then, she wasn't sorry. She was desperate. The walls were closing in. Within 2 weeks, she'd moved into a friend's house, a second-hand couch, public school registration approved, a job at a smoothie chain, late nights and polyester uniforms, a world where she paid for everything with tips and minimum wage. She tried to hide it, posted filtered selfies, motivational quotes, leveling up, doing it myself, independent queen. But under the shine, the truth bled through. Her skin broke out, her hair got greasy, her smiles grew smaller. I didn't rejoice, I just watched. Sometimes Rachel would scroll through Katie's posts with a sad little frown. She'd whisper things like, "She's growing up too fast," or, "I wish she'd let me help." But she didn't say that when Katie was mocking me in our kitchen. Didn't say that when she deleted the therapist's invoice. Didn't say that when she stood silent while I was dismantled word by a teenager in my own home. And now she wanted softness? The bill was coming due. For both of them. Katie lost her school. Rachel lost her peace. And me? I lost my illusions. And yet, somehow I felt lighter, like I had stepped out of a skin that never fit. The turning point came a month later. Katie texted again. No emojis. No barbs. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I was measuring her intent. Had she changed? Or had her circumstances just caught up with her? Rachel noticed me staring at my phone. "She misses you," she said. I nodded. Not because I believed her, but because the conversation was already dead. That night I went for a walk, long aimless, through neighborhoods where families laughed on porches, where fathers grilled in driveways, where daughters threw frisbees to golden retrievers. I didn't envy them. Not anymore. I just wondered what it was like to live in a house where love was given before money. When I got home, Katie had sent another message. "I understand if you don't want to help, but I want to fix this. For real this time." I sat down at the kitchen table, the same one where I had paid her therapist's retainer, signed the field trip forms, checked the boxes that said Father Step, and waited for acknowledgement that never came. I opened my laptop and wrote a reply. "You can come home for 3 months. Rent is $200. You clean up after yourself. We go to family therapy once a week. No special treatment. No extra gifts. No illusions." I hit send. Closed the screen. No smile. No pride. Just a quiet exhale. She replied the next morning. "Okay, I'll follow the rules. I just want to be around people who care again." Rachel cried when she read it. I didn't, because I wasn't celebrating. I was setting boundaries. She came home 2 days later, hair tied back, backpack over one shoulder, a duffel bag in her hand. She didn't hug me. She didn't smile. She said, "Thanks for letting me come back." And that was enough. I gave her a key, told her where the cleaning supplies were, reminded her of her rent deadline, pointed to the therapist's card on the fridge. She nodded. Quiet. Smaller. She didn't ask for a ride. Didn't complain about dinner. Didn't bring up her father. Something had cracked in her. Maybe it was humility. Maybe it was just exhaustion. But she was different. And me? I was steel. I didn't drop my guard. Didn't volunteer to fix anything. Didn't reach for my wallet. Not this time. Because the house may look the same, but the rules have changed. And for the first time, I'm not the one compromising. 6 months passed. No new requests. No fake apologies. No door slamming, no screaming. Just silence. The kind that doesn't hurt anymore. Katie paid her rent on time. Cleaned up after herself. Showed up to therapy. Sometimes she came home late from her shift and left a Tupperware container in the fridge labeled extra. She never said who it was for. She didn't have to. We existed in parallel. Not enemies. Not family. Something between truce and transformation. Then one Sunday night, just before the house dipped into its usual quiet, there was a knock on my door. She stood there. No makeup, no armor, no phone in her hand. Just her. "Can we talk?" she asked. I nodded. We sat at the kitchen table. No buffer. No Rachel. Katie didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for favors. She didn't cry. She just looked at me and said, "I get it now. I really do." I didn't rush her. I didn't fill the silence. She continued, eyes locked on the table between us. I thought I was the one being left behind, but I was the one doing the leaving. You were holding everything up, and I was kicking it down without even looking. There was a long pause. Her voice was quieter now. I was cruel. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't see the girl who spat at me through sarcasm and entitlement. I didn't see the stepdaughter who rolled her eyes while I paid for her comfort. I saw a young woman, raw, worn, real. I didn't offer forgiveness. I didn't offer praise. I offered structure. You can stay indefinitely if you follow the rules. Rent stays at $200. You keep your job. You keep going to therapy. You keep showing up. She nodded, not defiantly, not bitterly, just with understanding. Rachel asked me later if I was proud of her. I said no. Pride comes from what you build together. This was survival, recovery, maybe the start of something, but not pride. Not yet. Katie started taking community college classes nearby. She pays for them herself. She's off my phone plan, buys her own groceries. She still doesn't call me dad. And I don't need her to, because what I needed, what I never got, was respect. Now I have it. It's not loud. It doesn't come in birthday cards or long conversations. It shows up in the way she washes her own dishes, in the way she knocks before entering my office, in how she talks to me now, not around me. Sometimes I forget we aren't related by blood, not because of affection, but because of discipline, because there's finally mutual ground, a fragile, steady respect built not from love but from consequence. And maybe that's stronger. Maybe it's more honest. People ask me now if things are better, if we've healed, if we're close. But I don't want closeness. I want truth. And the truth is this: you don't need to replace anyone. You don't need to wear someone else's name to have value. But you do need to stop paying to be disrespected. I used to believe sacrifice was the cost of love. Now I know better. Sacrifice without boundaries is just servitude. And love without respect is just decoration. So I'll leave you with this. Was I wrong to pull the plug? To stop funding a life that spat in my face? To draw a line, not in anger, but in clarity? Would you have endured it? Would you still be standing at the stove, paying the bills, while they whispered you don't matter behind your back? Or would you, like me, finally realize respect isn't something you buy, it's something you demand? And if you don't, they'll never give it freely. So tell me, was I wrong? Or were they just never ready for a man who stopped apologizing for the space he takes up?